Shovel now. May the words of my lips and the meditation of my mind be acceptable before you, O Yah, my rock and my redeemer. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. First and foremost, giving all honor, glory, acknowledgement, and allegiance to the God of our forefathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Yitzchak, and the God of Yisrael. Yahweh is his name, and all praises are due to him, and him alone forever and ever. Showing due respect to the leader of D.C.B, Chief Prince Jadiel Ben Yissaskar, to the men of the council, and all the men, women, and children within the sound of my voice. I bid you all in the tongue of my forefathers, Shabbat Shalom, Shalom Lakem.
Shabbat Shalom, Shalom Lakem.
Torah Rabbah. How y'all doing today? How y'all doing this afternoon? God is good. Just praying for all of those who have endured these natural catastrophes. I don't know why we use the word natural, but it's the Most High God's hand on this earth. And the Most High always has a way of showing that he's in charge. I'm going to start some trouble. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. Apologize in advance. So I went to see The Women King. It was a great movie. It was fictional. Let y'all know that. But it was a great movie. It was a real good movie. But just to bring out some things, the reason why a lot of us have a tendency to look at these things with skepticism is because we know that America always has an agenda. Hollywood has an agenda. As I'm actually watching it, before the movie came on, there were like a couple of previews. And all of the previews, or at least two of the previews, were homosexual previews. And usually with trailers have something to do with the movie that you're watching. So I'm like, okay, why are they providing these trailers now? Because they know the audience that's there. But all of a sudden, I'm watching two guys kiss and all types of stuff like that. And, the other thing with the brother trying to hide the fact that he's gay and in the military and all stuff like that. I'm like, okay, what they getting at? So I'm watching a movie, right? Viola Davis, she's a great actress, excuse me. She's never gonna do any role to me better than when she did Antoine Fisher. I think that, I'm sorry, every time I watch it, and the only thing she did was cry in Antoine Fisher for me. But it was the essence of what she was doing. This shows me that she just has the great talent. But what I did notice in the movie, they threw some things out there. They had a little bit of Color Purple going on with the girl getting smacked and stuff so you throwing the male misogyny going on and stuff like that. And they had a eunuch there that was a little bit more flaming. I mean, he's just a eunuch. It's a eunuch. He's not, you don't gotta be all that, right? Yeah, he's just a eunuch. That's what he is, but I get it. I actually like I'm trying not to tell a movie, but I'm giving people pre-warnings. No, because when you're gonna watch it, the movie it was done very well. It was good. It was good to see. Right. And this is what I'm going to talk about, right? So, and this is what you're going to notice. It was very American. It was for American palate. You can see that. Because they talked about they were big time slave traders. They did mention that in the movie, but at the same time they make it seem like, oh, we need to stop doing this, whatever. That was really an American message. That's not, because people didn't stop saying because there weren't a lot of people that were into the slave trade in Africa, but those that were, they did it very well. And that homie was one of them. So, but it made it seem like, we got to stop this and whatever. So it kind of had a Pan-African feel, which I did like, right? You want to see people change the mind state. But I want to say something a lot of people didn't recognize, as some people are trying to find this dynamic of women empowerment. Did you notice the characters were highly disciplined women? They were very disciplined, very obedient women, even though they know how to kill. And they went to war because the men in the movie, they were the ones that carried the guns most of the time. But they was the ones that was fighting and doing all of that stuff. And they were with swords. They were fighting with swords. Yeah, they were fighting with swords. One had the thing, they had some extra stuff going on. She had the rope and was kicking in and stuff like that. But yeah, I get the fact that, they were showing that and the whole thing of the woman king. I just wanted to address this. Africans did have women kings. Now, before you we did, it didn't work the same way it worked in Western society, right? Oftentimes, just like in Europe, they needed to maintain a bloodline. So they became Abba, Oba, whatever you want to call it, because they are the carriers of the bloodline. So there were women kings that actually were given wives. It's not LGBTQ. It's just Africans have strict traditions. So if the tradition is that she gets a king gets 7 wives, she would get 7 wives. She would be married or whatever, but she would just have these women are her women. You know what I mean? That's what it would be. And as you know, a lot of these cultures are different. Some of them are similar. But to dispel a myth, because there's people saying ain't no such thing, like Africans never had, they had kings. They had queen rulers. They had all of that good stuff. But so that we are clear on those things, and as we are talking about our kings, right, in Chronicles, I want to say some things now that some of us, in the root of our core, we understand this, but we often find ourselves being a part of our own demise in this process. So you're watching this movie and you're looking at a dynamic of empowered women, but at the same time, I don't know if you watch TV as of late. I don't watch TV much, but every image that you see of us is like some guy dressed in drag with lipstick and his hair permed, and he's a bottom, or he's something nasty or dirty, and this is the image that they're trying to portray against us. And I want you to see the dynamic of what we're dealing with. And I'm not trying to come off in any way, shape, or form or D.C.B. is not trying to come off as, we don't like this and we don't like that, whatever. I'm coming from a position of letting people understand what we're dealing with as a people. There are some of you, even in this nation, that are on a pro-liberal women's lib tip. There are some men that are on a hyper-misogynistic chauvinist tip. I want you to understand where all of the divisiveness came from. In the mid-1800s, America did the census of black people, right? They found out they had more slaves, right? More slaves in this country than they needed to. We were 47% of the population. Let me tell you how dangerous that is. If we decided to have a revolution then, we would take over the country. Because just us by alone were 40-something%. That means, and they say, we stopped. America stopped importing slaves because there were too many black people in this country, and we had the potential to take over. The root. And I want you to look up Dr. Umar Johnson interview with the Breakfast Club. He said the government found out that all of these revolutionary movements, Nat Turner, Marcus Garvey, the Haitian Revolution, Elijah Muhammad, they weren't started with men. They were started with the family. The family is the core unit that threatens American existence when it comes to black people. So what do you decide to do? What you always do. Divide and conquer. Jasmine Guy was on the Breakfast Club the other day. She was talking about, and I didn't know she was so pro-black.
I know she was that hood.
Yeah, and street. Yo, because she was the one that was doing all the cursing. Kim Hardison was like, yep. So she said something that's important. She said, yeah, well, this is what they was doing. And said, what do white people do? They divide. They separate us. This is not an indictment to the extent that we don't know a lot of the stuff that we've been programmed to think, but this is an indictment for the fact that it's 2022 and we are still following the same foolishness that the white society has programmed us to think. The highest abortion rates come from black people. Do you know why the highest abortion rates come from black people? Because we are the most separated out of all of the ethnic groups. Because of that separation, the desire for independence created a lack of wealth in our community. People say, well, you know what's going on? No, we're under the Hispanics, the Chinese, whatever, but our families are separated because they didn't tell you that when you separate the household, you also separate the economics of the household. And when you separate the household, you can easily convince, because there's no solid fortified structure that's standing up against white supremacy. So when they want to control our population, they like, oh, they divided already, so now we can incentivize black women to get rid of their own kids. And it won't look like Egypt when we're killing the kids and throwing them in the Nile River. They're doing it on their own.
You tell them to do it. Children as well.
I saw something on I think it was a video on YouTube, and these anti-abortion people were talking about how you can call to sponsor an abortion, and you can sponsor the race of the child that you want to get aborted. So if a woman comes inside and don't have the money, the sponsor will say, I want a black baby to be aborted. And he actually called and asked for that, and the girl was saying, yeah. And if you know how this so-called Planned Parenthood started, Margaret Sanger, who was part of the American Eugenics Society, and the Eugenics Society created an atmosphere of trying to get rid of or depopulate black people. She wanted to depopulate anyway, but she really looked at us as scourge. The first strategy was you can't have white people go into the black neighborhood to destroy black babies. You have to use black faces to do the job. So most of these clinics hired black people. She went to the second most important influence in our community at that time, maybe still today, was the black church. Convincing and incentivizing preachers to go through this process in their congregations in the black community, saying that it was beneficial if the children that were coming from us were programmed and planned, and if you limit the amount that you had in the household and what have you. And so some of you think that the impoverishment of black men has something to do with us being lazy or being weak or being incompetent or not being. They actually cut us out of this opportunity because they had the power to do such. Y'all need to remember we are living in another people's land. And we are not the first experiment that happened on the planet concerning depriving the families of the right to exist and live. We had it in Egypt. Other nations had the same thing. Do you know what the untouchables in India are dealing with right now? And they've been dealing with this for thousands of years. What I'm telling you is, we are here I don't mean to say it this way, but we are wickedly participating in our own destruction. Because we have nasty attitudes. And we think that the stuff we see on TV is right. And we think the way our parents raised us to be decisive and independent is right. What society you know that ever been anything did it with one gender? We're going to read Chronicles, and the reason why I need you to understand that in our society, we follow the traditional human process. I'm not saying that because others had women warriors that there was something wrong with them. A lot of cultures had that. But the idea is women birth. They are the initial protectors of children. And the reason why men fight and give their lives so that they can protect their children. Because they don't care about you. They care about your future. And they've been doing the same thing. When the people go to war with you, they just don't cut your kids and the women off. They take the women. This is why they call that booty. It's real. Call it booty. And they make your children slaves if they don't kill them. And sons, you don't have a chance because they don't want your offspring to grow up. Even in The Godfather, he said, no, he got to die because he going to grow up. I'm going to remember what I did to his father. And blasted the mother out of the kingdom come. But even then, because all of that stuff was supposed to be based on true stories, they know how that spirit of a man is. God made us natural protectors, leaders, warriors. He gave us that skill set. And regardless of what, America is trying to deprive us of all of those things, but it's never going away. This is the reason why we have to get locked in jail. Because this is in our DNA. You are not going to disrespect me and think it's going to be okay because that's how I'm made. It's not personal, sisters. I'm just telling you. And I'm not talking that anything to the extent that we're supposed to click on and whip people because they say something wrong to you, whatever the case may be, because domestic violence is not either. But so to let you know, the domestic violence that they show you in the commercialism is different from the domestic violence that they actually teach. I actually went to some seminars on domestic violence, right? They present you with this thing called the domestic violence wheel. And you would be surprised how many of us are perpetrators of domestic violence. The sister that was giving a seminar said this. She said, oftentimes I go to these seminars and I hear people get up, and person, man shouldn't be hitting you and stuff like that. She showed the will. She said, domestic violence rarely starts with physical abuse. She said 9 times out of 10, that is the result of an insult or an inflammatory comment made, and usually it comes from the woman's mouth. This is what she said. Look at Chief. I know you're going to be mad at me. I'm going to lose some Facebook friends. Some of y'all are turning down the thing right now, but this is what this sister said. She said domestic violence, that people use the cops as a method of domestic violence. People use money as a method of domestic violence. She said even when you deal with people that are coming from other countries that are not legal, she said they use that as domestic violence. They use your lack of education. As she said, all of that stuff contributes to domestic violence. It's all a part of it. So part of what I'm trying to let you know is we've been indoctrinated so bad. We don't even know when to stop, even when we know God. We still still men and women pointing fingers. Still talking about what you're going to listen to and what you're not going to listen to. And it hurts because we have a nation to build. And this is what we giving our kids. This is how we show that we love them and we protect them. Is by teaching them it's more important to be part of agenda than a nation. God gave you your birth sexual organ so that you could continue on this planet.
Speak the truth. That's right.
It is not a place of pride, arrogance, or ego.
Come on now.
It is for you to continue what God had established on this earth. Women are the first teachers of all the children. And you don't, and then some of you are assuming that the when the child is born is when the learning starts. The learning starts while the child is in the womb. Every vibration, everything she eats, everything she takes in comes in the child is a part of her at that point. And there's even something even weirder when the child comes out. It doesn't just recognize the mother's voice, it recognizes the father's voice as well. If the father talks to the child may cry, but the child will start leaning towards the father because whatever vibration or energy or DNA that was in the child, he recognizes the father's voice. God knows what he's doing. We are the ones at fault. So when we start adapting an attitude that teaches us to be about ourselves, to be people who care more about what we personally want, our pockets, our personal passions, instead of God's people, this is how we suffer. We suffer because, remember, when we were in our own land, we did not care about God and we didn't care about each other. So it makes sense that when we're in this country, we don't care about anybody or anything. I want to get us to understand how it works when it comes to victimization. I know there's a hyper messaging concerning female victimization, black women victimization, black women and disempowerment. I know that a lot of the organizations that we formed, even in trying to fight against white supremacy, were hyper misogynistic. But I wanted to explain to you what happens when you're dealing with the traumatized people who were snatched of their human dignity, right? You notice that people overcompensate when you tell me that I'm less than who I am. So I want you, and this is just in general, right? If you call me on the street certain things, I'm going to want to fight you. You don't call me a bag of a group of sticks or, you know. Yeah. Y'all get what I'm talking about.
Bundle of sticks.
Yeah, bundle of sticks or, you know, a cigarette in England. You don't call me that. Yeah. Right? Because that deprives me of my dignity as you say those things out your mouth. Imagine if you dealt with people who come and they know who they are, they have a strong sense of self, but they come to a country where they themselves as men are raped. Or they have to go home to a wife that's just been raped. Or still be a father to a child that's just been raped. And get up in the morning and watch people get beat and all types of stuff like that. You know, when they had the lynchings, it was not just important that the person was punished. They had to be punished in front of people. They got to be punished in front of you. I have to do that in front of people because I need the children to be scared. I need everybody. I need the terrorism to resonate. Because the point of terrorism is I do a little bit of damage to a small group to make everybody afraid. So all of this stuff has to happen. And then when we were free from slavery, quote unquote, 1865 and Juneteenth and all of that stuff, do you know what the greatest commodity of the black man was? His family. That's all we tried to do here, even in the Caribbean and other places, was try to get our families together. I've had documents and stories where people went miles and miles to try to find the wives and the kids that they love. Because sometimes they had to marry just for breeding purposes and marry people they didn't love. And there was one man and woman that said, okay, we're free now. You know, you go find yours, I'll find mine. Even though they were a couple under master, they went about their business. Because in establishing a family and a root, you reestablish dignity. A lot of us are using the word love, but don't know how to execute it. We don't have understanding of it. We say I love you. You can't love me if you denigrate me, you emasculate me, you disrespect me, you abuse me, you say what you want out your mouth to people. That is not love. And I'm concerned because oftentimes we think that we say it and we understand it, but we don't know it because we were never taught it. It's part of the generational curses. And, you know, like my thing was, the movie, as I said, the movie was great. But I clearly understand that America has agendas in everything that they do. So this is not to say don't see go see the movie. Because if they can have their fiction, we can have ours. If they can have their folklore, we can have ours. If we can have those things that say, yeah, kill Whitey, yeah. We can have ours. There's a guy that they saw the Black Panther movie, and he said he said it was trash, it was ridiculous. And, you know, white supremacy doesn't just affect us, it affects them as well. And this is something that Common did a rhyme about, right? He said, there's niggas in Star Wars too now, right? Like, he said something like that, and I'm just paraphrasing what he said. And the point of why he said what he said was, they don't put us in the future. So when a white person sees us in a futuristic state, they're like, it's garbage. But isn't that how you got Star Trek, Star Wars, Flash Gordon, everything that you've been doing for since Hollywood been around? You put yourself in the future. Matter of fact, you put yourself everywhere. You got the Viking in Egypt, the Viking is in Babylon, the Viking is everywhere. And the Viking never been there. And the Viking traveled, but the Viking is everywhere. The Viking is the last samurai. The Viking is everything. The Viking is everywhere. The Viking is everywhere. Even when you do a Roman movie, the Viking is there. He's playing the Roman. He's playing Julius Caesar. And he ain't been there. We've been there. Melanated people been there.
The Viking is Tarzan.
But even that, why are you in a black jungle, bro? You're gonna come all the way from Norway to do what Africans couldn't do? For real? That don't even make sense to me no more. Like, you're gonna, listen, your skin is too light, you can't exist like that. He'd be messed up and red and all types of other stuff like that. And I'm not trying to be on a racist tip, but what I'm telling you is what you're dealing with and what you're up against.
Truth is truth.
I just have to bring it out. So part of my cry is that we have to stop, as Israelite men and women, being so irresponsible with things that they know and agendas that they know they're trying to do to us. And if you don't know, I'm telling you now. This ain't about your personal struggle with being a woman and your personal struggle with being a man. This is about the glorification of Almighty God. And if God say this is what he wants, this is what he wants. If he set something in order, that's what he set in order. problems are not going to stop God's movement from happening the way he wants it to happen. As you may have heard this morning, there was talk about the generations maybe not living up to the things that the teacher said before. But I'm going to say this. Oftentimes, you know, there's a lot of things that may not happen that we may be able to bear witness to, but God always has a ram in the bush. Just because you're not doing what's right, don't mean that somebody out there is not. Because with the invention of all of this technology, what you find out that there's a lot of Israelite communities around this world. And all of their children ain't telling their parents to go to hell and all types of stuff like that. And I'm going to do what I want to do and I'm going to wear the tight skirt. And everybody ain't doing that.
That's right.
That's your problem now.
Right.
Everybody's husband and wife ain't talking about I ain't going to listen to what you got to say. No, everybody ain't dealing with that. Some people know what to do. Some people got it figured out. And they're just waiting. But if we got the problem, we got the problem. But this is something that you choose to be a part of. God woke you up, but the rest is up to you. And with this opportunity that God has given you, you need to take advantage of it. If you fall off, it ain't God's fault. That's your fault.
That's on you, Bob.
You're born in this way of life and you chose to walk out, that's on you. Some people are like, I ain't doing this because I don't feel like the brothers and the thing, whatever the kid. That's on you.
Yes, sir.
I am living testimony. If I ran away from every bad thing that I saw in this nation, but it wasn't about the individuals, it was about God.
Talk about it. That's right.
I don't worship them, I worship God.
That's right.
And as time went on, my skin got thicker. I started to care less about what people think. Not that I don't respect people, but
Care more about the work.
I care more about what needs to happen as opposed to how you making me feel at the end of the day. I can't.
That's
But that's me.
That's right.
I'm not telling y'all to think like me because I'm different. I'm telling you I'm different.
That's right.
God made me different. Let me tell you something that's very interesting. I got time.
He got 2 chapters.
Yeah. No, but they're mostly names. It's not, you know. So, you know, as you're young, you just think that things happen in life. Sometimes when you're not in tune with the Most High, sometimes you just think things are just happening. And you start to realize God was actually in that matter.
That all the time. That's right.
You be like, but you couldn't see it then. Left for camp, you know, and a lot of people think I just walked out. Like, you know, it was struggle. I had to deal with a certain level of depression. I wasn't sad, but I was like, you know, man, I'm leaving 20 years of work behind. And you think about that. It's like, I know I put in efforts and work and nails. I got cuts and stuff and the money I put in, like everything that you've done to try to make something great. And you start to look at yourself, man, you're going to walk away from all of this? Like, and you sometimes your mind says, like, you know, no, go fight for what's right and ruin yours. And God showed me, no, you need to walk away. You need to leave this behind. You need to wash your hands of this right now. You do it. But then the validation comes. Not too long after I walked, I'm like, man, I ain't teaching nowhere. You know, you feel that way. I'm a teacher, man. People telling me I was teaching since I was 9 years old. I don't remember. They're like, yo, you always had that with you. Prince of the Die was like, yo, you always taught, you taught the same way you taught when you was 9. You teach the same way now. Who's told me that? He's like, yo, he always had the books out and stuff like that, whatever the case may be. But in your mind, you ain't trying to do nothing. You just do what the talent that God has given you. Brother Uriah, you know Brother Uriah from Guyana. He called me up, yeah, bro, you know, I need this thing. I'm going to hook up you up with this person. And, you know, so we hooked up. There was an event going on. Ivan Van Sertima, if you know Ivan Van Sertima, he was an intellect, black scholar. I think he did. They Came Before Columbus and other books, whatever. So, Trinidadian descent. But they were doing a tribute, and he had connected me with the sister that was doing a tribute. So he said, "Yo, she needs a speaker." And I was totally blind. Like, I don't like going into things that I don't know nothing about. I'm very one foot before the other foot person. I don't jump into nothing like that. I don't know you, whatever. But I was at a point where, like, whatever. Whatever it was. And they were doing it at Restoration, so it was cool. I knew where they were going.
Right in your backyard.
Right in my backyard. And that I wasn't the speaker. The premier speaker was Dr. Leonard Jeffries. God is working. I didn't see Leonard Jeffries. I was in City College, right, when I first went to college, and I was in the Black Studies department. That's where I worked. And I don't know if you know, during that time, they were trying to fire him because he was trying to make this thing called the curriculum of inclusion to have more understanding of black culture inside not just college, but in high school and other things like that. So I worked for Miss Marion, who was the secretary at the time. James Smalls, I graded papers from people in his class. Like, yeah, I see you, brother. You got the tassels. You see you with the hat on and stuff like that. You Israelite. Yeah, whatever. Grade these papers for me, please. Thank you. So he wound up being there. But I spoke before, and even in the atmosphere, because, there's a lot of Hoteppers. I'm sorry, Hoteppers. There's a lot of Hoteppers there. A lot of Yoruba, stuff like that, whatever. And, you Israelite there, because they, at that time, it was like kind of a real great type of schism in these communities concerning us. So I'd get up there, turban down, whatever the case may be, and I just started talking about one family. I spoke, and Dr. Jeffries was there, and I tore it down. I'm not talking about like I'm bragging, but I tore it down because I think God wanted me to show me that he was still with me, regardless of all of the things that I was dealing with at the time. And the validation I got wasn't just a round of applause, wasn't just the commendation from the sister. She was like, wow. Like, everybody was like, wow. And the other sister that was there, like, yo, like, I didn't know you had that in you, man. Like, they just didn't see it. And then he said to me, yo, you spoke good. You spoke real good. Miss Marion, right? You was Miss Marion? I said, yeah. Like, but I only saw him once because he was never in the office. But the validation came when I was doing research on him. I'm like, yo, just let me. I looked, and this man was born the same day I was born. And I said to myself, God always shows you a sign that you need to be where you need to be. And that you're doing the right thing and you're in the right role. Something recently happened. I'm talking about, when you're in the right frequency of certain things happen to you and stuff like that. And I'm walking, coming from a restaurant. We stood inside there. We thought it was a vegetarian place, and it wasn't. Walked out. He's in Williamsburg, and his brother stopped. And I'm coming after Shabbat, So I got my garments on, but I'm fixing my hair. My hair looked terrible. I'm fixing my kippah. Stuff is going to the side and stuff. I'm just trying to stuff what I have inside here. Y'all brothers know how it goes sometimes. You're just trying to make yourself look right. And, nowadays I'm very leery to talk to people because of stuff that's going on. Like a lot of people out here losing their mind. Brother stopped and looked. He said, he just stopped like this. And he said he had his headphones on. He took his headphones off, and you can see like he's coming from somewhere. He said, brother, you pray? And I'm trying not to talk to him. I'm like, well, like, I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what I'm saying? And I'm keeping my distance because there's a lot of people that out there is real out here now. So he began to talk. So then I let down my guard. And he just talked about, man, I'm going through so much right now. I just need somebody to pray for me, man. I need the right person. Like, he's like, and I asked him, like, well, what's your belief? Like, do you pray? Do you believe in God? He's like, yeah, I'm like, I have a Bible. And he just talked about certain things that he was dealing with, like, so I said, bro, and the way he was talking, like he was going into a depression. Mm-hmm. And he was saying, yeah, my mom's just trying to kick me out and all this stuff like that, whatever the case may be. And, and well, I'm glad I started to talk to him because he wasn't off. He just didn't have any direction. So when he talked, he said, listen, I need this because I'm scrambled. And I said, let me tell you something, bro. So how old are you now? He gave me his age. He's 25, 28 or something like that. I said, I'm going to tell you something. We all been there. I've been there. I've been in the state where I didn't know where my next dollar was coming from. I didn't know what my next move was going to be. We all get confused from time to time. I said, but the thing what you need to do is not give up on yourself. Because, listen, I said, you just came from a job. Half of the people I know at your age can't even say the same thing. So I said, but you have to take your time. I said, when you beat yourself up, that's when you become desperate. And you start doing things that you're not supposed to do as a man. He said, relax, take your time, and you can figure it out, man. And I said, you got to pray to God before I pray for you, too. So, because I'm just me. You don't know me from a can of paint. And then we introduced each other with whatever the case may be. I said, brother, what's your name? So, like, he said, I'm going to pray for you, but what's your name? He gave me his name, whatever the case may be. I gave him mine, whatever. And we walked off in peace. And I'm like, verification. It's going to happen. Listen, and I'm saying it because if it's happened to me, when you are in the right frequency, in the right state of mind, in the right spirit, God will begin to send people to you. So be prepared. It's not a brag thing, but I'm saying that God is going to prepare you to do certain work. All the work don't come from up here.
That's right. Fishers and hunters.
Sometimes it's the character that you have that attracts people or repels people. Because stop thinking that just because you're Israel and wear ZZs that people like you and that you have the best character in the world.
Most people don't like us.
You don't. Because some of us think that for some reason conversion means good character. Don't mean that. So with all that I'm trying to say is that we have to prepare our minds for this battle of spiritual warfare because it's real. It ain't fake. And it's not about battling Christians, about proving that Christianity is wrong. No, it's not about that. We are dealing with more of a moral dilemma.
That's right.
With people not knowing that you can't just murder your brother for a gold chain.
I need to ban with Christians. All morality is gone.
The morality is gone, and women went on Coney Island and drowned their kids. And you may say to yourself, what makes it that bad for her to do that? You don't know what's going on in her mind. I stop assuming like, I don't know what's going on in her mind. But God takes away people's minds.
That's right.
The other one that was in Queens that stabbed the kids up. Babies. I'm talking about babies. Yeah. They weren't little, they were babies. Yeah. So you think if a person could do that, killing another individual over a gold chain or because you stepped on my shoe is nothing. So as we go into this, I want us to get to understand why these men fought the way they fought. Why they fought these nations that, because a lot of these nations, they weren't just savage as far as they're fighting. Some of these people, they beat you and they rape you. They do all types of crazy stuff. That's why you understand why Saul didn't want to get caught. It's not just about, because dying is dying. Dying is whatever. Right. It's the disgraceful things that they'll do with you before they kill you. Right. Think about those stories. And I think about that all the time. We come from those people that would rather give our lives than to get captured. During slavery, transatlantic slave trade, a lot of us, jumped over.
Rather than go to
Because we knew what was going. When we got word of what was going on the other side, we were like, nah, I'd rather go to heaven. That was their mind state.
the sharks.
Let the sharks eat me. Let them have me and rape my kids and all types of stuff. Nah. So we're gonna go through these quick chapters. And another thing I'm gonna draw out is this. So the Chronicles is what's written from the kingly point of view, right? Mm-hmm. As you have the book of Samuel, we're written from the prophetic point of view. When you read David talk, he's going to hold these men into high esteem. And a lot of us think that, David is this and David is that and David is the Lord. But David gives credit to other people because what David clearly understood that one man is not the show. He clearly understand that if I wasn't rocking with these guys that were warriors and had my back, I would not be king. No man is an island. So the lesson I want you to understand when you read these portions is that David knew the value of his brothers and sisters that were loyal to him. That's why we read about Abigail and people that, hey, and when I was in this crunch, this is the person that looked out for me. These people could always eat at my table. These warriors were, and he's not even talking about like, I just killed a monkey with a slingshot, but these guys killed 300 in this mountain, this whatever the case may be, and showing that how great these men were as far as their fighting skill and everything else, so that you can remember them in the perpetuity. To know that, hey, I may be king, but listen, Pat Riley will be nothing without Magic Johnson.
Mm-hmm. And Kareem.
And Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Cooper and everybody else that was on the team. And I'm just a coach. I'm just a coach. Phil Jackson would be nothing without Michael Jordan. These are the people that make it happen. Tamshi.
We're in the book of 1 Chronicles, chapter 11, verse 1. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Then all Israel gathered themselves to David unto Hebron, saying, Behold, we are thy bone and thy flesh. In times past, even when Saul was king, it was thou that didst lead out and bring Israel. And Jehovah thy God said unto thee, Thou shalt feed my people Yisrael, and thou shalt be prince over my people Yisrael. So all the elders of Yisrael came to the king of Hebron, and David made a covenant with them in Hebron before Jehovah.
Now, I want us to all get something when it comes to David. David had to deal with the validation, right? We talk about validation. He was anointed when he was a young man. Then he slayed Goliath, right? That was afterwards. What David did wasn't about him being mighty, powerful. It was giving the people back their heart. Inspiring others to be strong and having valor in the face of adversity. And we always have these Davids that pop up in our community. You notice that. There's a Martin Luther King, there's always somebody that gets up and say, listen, I don't care, I'm gonna fight. If I die, but I'm gonna inspire others to do the same thing. And with that validation, Chief said it last week, David was a fugitive. So you gotta think about this. I remember being anointed by God, being told I'm gonna be the next king of Israel, but I'm running with my family and 400 guys for my life because the current king wants my head. Mm-hmm. You have to endure that. You have to see the picture at the end of the tunnel. You have to see that light. Because if you don't see that, then you won't survive because you're going to go through stuff.
Yes, sir.
David just didn't become king because there was anointing oil on his head. It took time, struggle, work, times that he was afraid, times that he had to shake hands with the enemy. It took all types of stuff he had to do.
Yes, sir.
But at the end of the day, he stood fast. And this is the time where, because remember, David just didn't become king of all Israel automatically. He was king of Hebron first. They allowed him to be king. And then afterwards, all of the people came to him and said, man, you know, be the king, man. We need a king, la da da da, whatever the case may be. And it kind of happens the way it's supposed to happen, right? Because oftentimes we have the tendency to bullguard and try to take things that we think we deserve. But sometimes we actually have to wait on God so that people can see that this is of God's work. It ain't you trying to bully or make things of your own, because we all like to put crowns on our head and grandize ourselves. We do that all the time. It's boring, man. It's cliche. We do that all the time. Easy to make yourself somebody special. Especially if you're a narcissist. Everybody think, yeah, I'm the man. No, you're not. Let God anoint you, so that people can understand it's of God, is not of your own work. Tamshi.
Middle of verse 3. And they anointed David king over Israel, according to the word of Yahweh by the hand of Samuel. Verse 4. And David and all Israel went to Jerusalem, the same as Jebus. And the Jebusites, the inhabitants of the land, were there. And the inhabitants of Jebus said to David, thou shalt not come in hither. Nevertheless, David took the stronghold of Zion, the same as the city of David. And David said, whosoever smiteth the Jebusites first shall be chief and captain. And Joab the son of Zeruiah went up first and was made chief. And David dwelt in the stronghold. Therefore they called it the city of David.
And I just want to give you like a little history lesson on why this king of Jebus felt he had the right to talk tough when he's surrounded by nothing but Israelites. Because for a long time, the nation was divided.
Right.
So you think you can get away with saying things because you can make an ally. Oh yeah, Benjamin ain't cool with Judah, whatever the case may be. So when he presses, you ain't coming inside here, la da 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 da, whatever the case may be. But now he don't know that all of the nation is behind David now. So now we are that united force that we needed to be. And some things you just can't say to Israelite men. Right. We just not gonna take it from you. It's not. We've been that way. We are that way now. The problem is we are that way with each other now. But some things you're just not gonna mouth off in our face, like, you know, like, you don't see my posse behind me. You see my crew. See how deep we are, bro. For real. We gonna take over. Some shit.
Verse 8. And he built the city round about from Milo even round about. And Joab repaired the rest of the city. Verse 9. And David waxed greater and greater, for Yahweh of hosts was with him.
Amen.
Verse 10. Now these are the chief of the mighty men whom David had, who held strongly with him in his kingdom, together with all Israel, to make him king, according to the word of Yahweh concerning Yisrael. And this is the number of the mighty men whom David had.
Before we even go into that, I just want to give y'all some advice. You know, loyal people will stay loyal. It's an attribute, it's a trait that they have, unless you give them a reason not to be loyal. People who are disloyal to even your own children, people who are not loyal to you will never be loyal to you because it's a trait that they have. So if you want to look for the person that's going to stab you in the back, look at the people who've been stabbing you in the back. They're going to continue to do the same thing. A loyal person, they're just not going to mess with you no more. Because loyalty is not something that, I don't got time to give loyalty to something to not have it give it to me back in return. That's energy and time that's lost. That's what hurts people. Like, you know, I gave something to somebody and this is what they did with what I gave them. So, at one time, my mentality was, hey, if a person did this to you, then forget about them, whatever the case may be, you know, and you got to start looking at people different and, you know, don't trust nobody. God put something in you that's supposed to be in you. If people take advantage of that, that's on them. That ain't you. I think that's something I got from the movie too. Yeah, if somebody victimized you, they're the victimizer. You ain't the victimizer. If you are a giving person, stay a giving person. If you're a person that shows love, stay showing love, because that's the talent and the attribute that God has blessed you with. If somebody takes advantage of that, shame on them. You don't got to be, I ain't doing this for no more, whatever. I ain't giving no more money because nobody pay you. God is blessing you to do such. If they don't reciprocate, then that evil is on them. It's like the times where, we had priests that were crooked. We had priests that were crooked. Eli's sons was messed up. They were crooked. They were taking sacrifices, like taking the meat. Like they weren't even going to the altar. People giving a hard-on sacrifice, like, yo, man, I want sin offering, you know what I'm saying? Pray for me like that. Yeah. You prayed up. Go ahead. Boom. And they taking it and they doing what they want to do with the sacrifices. Yeah, sleeping with the women. They coming in for their offerings after they come off their nida or the child, whatever, and they sleeping with the women, and they were wilding out. But that should not stop you from doing your good. No, I'm not saying be blind. I'm not telling you that at all. But I'm saying the good that God put in your heart, don't diminish for wicked people, because we tend to do stuff like that. Time sheet.
Verse 11. And this is the number of the mighty men whom David had. Yashobeam, the son of Chokmah, the chief of the captains. He lifted up his spear against 300 and slew them at one time. And after him was Eleazar, the son of Dodo, the Ahohite, who was one of the three mighty men. He was with David at Pas Damim, and there the Philistines were gathered together to battle, where was a plot of ground full of barley, and the people fled from before the Philistines. But they stood in the midst of the plot and defended it, and slew the Philistines, and Jehovah saved them by a great victory.
Oh, it's ridiculous. You really want me to think that one guy killed 300 men at one time? Man, you giving me John Wick, Black Adam. You about to give me Black Adam. You about to give me all of these superheroes, but I can't have mine? And even if these numbers are inflated or rounded out, what they're trying to convey to you is that these men were strong. I don't care about the number.
A great feat.
It was a great feat. Sometimes you read stuff about he slayed 1,000 men. 1,000 just represents a great number. That's all it is. He may not be technically 1,000 people, because nobody's going to be there to count like. But I do tell you this much. When Saul asked for them 200 foreskins,
that's what he got.
He got 200 foreskins.
He asked for 100 and he got 2.
He got 2.
Yeah.
He got 4, because that's proof. That's like, listen.
Yeah.
This foreskin. This is dead flesh. This is what you asked for. I'm giving you twice as much as you asked for. I ain't saying he did it all by himself.
But he did it.
But he got it. Time sheet.
Verse 15. And 3 of the 30 chiefs went down to the rock to David unto the cave of Adullam. And the host of the Philistines were camped in the valley of Rephaim. And David was then in the stronghold, and the garrison of the Philistines was then in Beth-lehem. And David longed and said, oh, that one will give me water to drink of the well of Beth-lehem, which is by the gate. And the 3 broke through the host of the Philistines, and drew water out of the well of Beth-lehem that was by the gate, and took it, and brought it to David. For David would not drink thereof, but poured it out unto Jehovah, and said, my God forbid it me, that I should do this. Shall I drink the blood of these men that have put their lives in jeopardy? For with the jeopardy of their lives they brought it. Therefore he will not drink it. So these things did the 3 mighty men.
So David just did it there. Captains do stuff like that.
Right.
I bet you can't climb that wall and kill 500 Philistines. And somebody gonna say, I bet you I could. Mm-hmm. That's us. Israelites. And these guys went to do it. And it shows something about his leadership. He valued the life of the men. It wasn't something petty where he looked at the water and like, yeah, oh, thank you for something to drink, la-da-da-da. He like, nah, y'all guys risked y'all lives for this. Mm-hmm. I'm giving this to God, because this is how I value you guys in the work that you do in making sure that we are a free people, because I want you to understand how long we were fighting with the Philistines. we didn't start fighting Philistines here. Remember, we were slaves during the time of Samson. We were dealing with the Philistine problem for a very long time. And now, finally, in the beginning of Saul's reign, something was actually happening to rid ourselves of this Philistine problem. Tamshi.
Verse 20, and Abishai, the brother of Joab, he was chief of the three, for he lifted up his spear against 300 and slew them, and had a name among the three. Of the three in the second rank, he was the most honorable, and was made their captain. Howbeit he attained not to the first three. But BINAH, the son of Jehoiada, the son of a valiant man of Kabzeel, who had done mighty deeds, he smote the two altar hearts of Moab. He went down also and slew a lion in the midst of a pit in the time of snow, and he slew an Egyptian, a man of great stature, 5 cubits high, and in the Egyptian's hand was a spear like a weaver's beam, and he went down to him with a staff and plucked the spear out of the Egyptian's hand and slew him with his own spear. These things did BINAH, the son of Jehoiada, and had a name among the three mighty men. 25, behold, he was more honorable than the 30, but he attained not to the first three, and David set him over his guard. Verse 26, also the mighty man of valor, Asahel, the brother of Joab, Elhanan, the son of Dodo of Bethlehem, Shamoth, the Arorite, Helez, the Pilonite, Ira, the son of Ikhez, the Tekoite, Abiezer, and Anotathite, Sabakai, the Hushatite, Eli, the Ahoahite, Machre, the Nathophite, Eled, the son of Baana.
We'll get it right one day. Don't worry about it.
The Netophite, and Ittai, the son of Ribai of Gibeah, of the children of Benjamin, BINAH, the Pirathonite, and Hurai of the Nahali Gaash, Abiel, the Arbathite, and Asmaveth, the Baharumite, and Eliabah, the Sha'albonite, the sons of Hashem, the Gizonite, Jonathan, the son of Shageh, the Harite, and Ahiham, the son of Sakar, the Aharite, Eliphal, the son of Ur, Eper, the Mecherathite, and Ahijah, the Pilonite, and Hesro, the Carmelite, and Naarai, the son of Esbai, Yoel, the brother of Nathan, Mibhar, the son of Agri, Zelek, the son, the Ammonite, and Nahrai, the Berothite, the armor bearer of Joab, the son of Zeruiah, Ira, the Ethrite, Gareb, the Ethrite, Uriah the Hittite, Zabad, the son of Ali, Adinah, the son of Shizah, the Reubenite, a chief of the Reubenites, and 30 with him, Hanan, the son of Ma'akah, and Yoshaphat, the Mithnite, Uzziah, the Ashterathite, Shammah, and Yael, the sons of Hotham, the Arorite, Yediael, the son of Shimri, Yoha, his brother, the Tizite, Eliel, the Mahavite, and Jeribiah, and Yoshavia, the sons of Elnaan, and Itmah, the Moabite, Eliel, and Obed, and Yaaziel, and the Mezobite.
So, good job.
That
brother.
was an exercise.
I just wanted to point out one thing before he goes to 12. You're going to read, as you read, there are quite a few names that were foreign nations.
A lot of foreign nations.
Ammonites. You have a Moabite. You have Hittite, Uriah the Hittite. And the reason, and you're like, well, why are they fighting on the side of Israel when they're our enemies? When a nation, even if it's your own, wrongs you, sometimes you bail. You go to another nation and you fight because you don't have justice in your own society. So this is the reason why you may see people jump ship and they're actually working on behalf of David. Some of these people were actually Philistines as well. Philistines weren't a single conglomerate of unified people.
Nah.
So that you know that. You know, some of them were mercenaries and lot, and you know, some of the kings were warring with one another. So this is the reason why you may have other people and other nations that were rolling with David. Tamshi.
1 Chronicles chapter 12, verse 1. Now these are they that came to David to Ziklag, while he was yet shut up because of Saul, the son of Kish, and they were among the mighty men, his helpers in war. They were armed with bows, and could use both the right hand and the left in sling stones, and in shooting arrows from the bow. They were Saul's brethren of Benjamin. The chief was Ahiezer, then Joash, the sons of Shemaiah, the Gibeathite, and Jeziel, and Peleth, the sons of Asmaveth, and Barakah, and Jehu, and the Anathothite, and Ishmaiah, the Gibeonite, a mighty man among the 30 over the 30, and Jeremiah, and Yahaziel, and Yohanan, and Yozabad, the Gederathite, and Eluzai, and Yerimoth, and Bealiah, and Shemariah, and Shephatiah, and the Ariphatite, Elkanah, and Ishiah, and Azarel, and Joezer, and Yoshabeam, and the Korathites, and Yoelah, and Zebadiah, the sons of Jeroham of the troop. And of the Gadites, they separated themselves unto David to the stronghold in the wilderness, mighty men of valor, men trained for war, that could handle shield and spear, whose faces was like the faces of lions, and they were as swift as the roes upon the mountains. Ezer the chief, Obadiah the second, Eliab the third, Mashmana the fourth, Jeremiah the fifth, Attai the sixth, Eliel the seventh, Yohanan the eighth, Elsabad the ninth, Jeremiah the 10th, Machbanai the 11th. These of the sons of Gad were captains of the host. That was least was equal to 100, and the greatest to 1,000. These are they that went over the Jordan in the first month, when it had overflown all its banks, and they put to flight all them of the valleys, both toward the east and toward the west. And they came of the children of Benjamin and Judah to the stronghold unto David. And David went out to meet them, and answered, and said unto them, If ye be come peaceably unto me to help me, my heart shall be knit unto you. But if ye come to betray me to mine adversaries, seeing there is no wrong in my hands, the God of our fathers look thereon and give judgment. Then the Spirit clothed Amasai, who was chief of the captains. Thine are we, David, and on thy side thou, son of Jesse. Peace, peace be unto thee, and peace be to thy helpers, for thy God helpeth thee. Then David received them, and made them captains of the band. Of Manasseh also there fell away some of David, when he came with the Philistines against Saul to battle, but they helped them not, for the lords of the Philistines upon advisement sent him away, saying, He will fall away to his master Saul, to the jeopardy of our heads. As he went to Ziklag, there fell to him of Manasseh, Admah, Jozabad, and Yadiel, and Mikael, and Jozabad, and Elihu, and Zeletai, captains of the thousands that were of Manasseh. And they helped David against the troop, for they were almighty men of valor, and were captains in the host. For from day to day men came to David to help him, until there was a great host like the host of God. And these are the numbers of the heads of them that were armed for war, who came to David to Hebron, to turn the kingdom of Saul to him, according to the word of Jehovah. Children of Judah that bore shield and spear were 6,000 7,800 armed to war. And of the children of Simeon, mighty men of valor for the war, 7,100. Of the children of Levi, 4,600. And Jehoiada was the leader of the house of Aaron, and with him were 3,700. And Zadok, a young man, mighty of valor, and of his father's house, 22 captains. And of the children of Benjamin, the brethren of Saul, 3,000. For hitherto the greatest part of them had kept their allegiance to the house of Saul. And of the children of Ephraim, 20,800, mighty men of valor, famous men in their fathers' houses. And of the half tribe of Manasseh, 18,000, who were mentioned by name, to come and make David king. And of the children of Issachar, men that had understanding of the times, to know what Yisrael ought to do. The heads of them were 200, and all their brethren were at their commandment. Of Zebulun, such as were able to go out in the host, that could set the battle in array with all manner of instruments of war, 50,000, that could order the battle array and were not of double heart. And of Naphtali, 1,000 captains, with them with their shield and spear, 37,000. And the Danites that could set the battle in array, 28,600. And of Asher, such as were able to go out in the host, that could set the battle in array, 40,000. And on the other side of the Jordan, of the Reubenites, the Gadites, and of the half tribe of Manasseh, with all manner of instruments of war for the battle, 120,000. All these being men of war that could order the battle array, came with a whole heart to Hebron to make David king over all Israel, and all the rest also of Israel were of one heart to make David king. And they were there with David 3 days, eating and drinking, for their brethren had made preparation for them. Moreover, they that were nigh unto them, even as far as Issachar and Zebulun and Naphtali, brought bread on asses, and on camels, and on mules, and on oxen, victuals of meal, cakes of figs, and clusters of raisins, wine, and oil, and oxen, and sheep, in abundance. For there was joy in Yisrael. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Torah Yah for reading this, brother. I know it was a hard job.
Goodness, where's Malcolm when you need him?
Exactly. Thanking the Most High God for all of our lives this day. Hoping he can bring us back. And just to say this as well, you know, we're in our time of penitence. This is the time that we reflect on the things that we've done. We should always be reflecting on the things that we've done, but as we're approaching Yom Kippur, we have to really begin to consider our change before God. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.